Hello. Thank you all for coming to the public practice week offered by the Contemplative CrossFit. Today is day 3, and we've gone deeper and deeper. Views are getting poked left and right. Intensity is picking up, and the discussion space are surprisingly lively. People are started to uncover some of their afflictions.
A lot of your
Now
spiritual
everybody's
practices, a
just
lot of it,
like
you're just bypassing the hallway here.
just you using all these perceptual
all this
geometries
technique
to
to
just
I
avoid
don't want to
feeling.
be myself. I just don't want. I hate this reality. Let's go into the awareness. Let's just see. Everything's a thought, so I don't have to deal with shit.
The format of the Public Practice Week is a simulation of the 90-day bootcamp where we have a transmission / group meditation / Dharma talk, followed by an hour of discussion where you get direct feedback loop to your sit and whatever's going on with your life and practice. Because remember, mind training is life training and life is relationships. This video is a highlight of some of the discussions. The topic of this week's transmission is 3 ways in which we exit and look away from making contact with reality directly and intimately. The first is insistency, the way we insist reality to unfold in a certain way. The second is distancing, the way we distance ourselves away from experiences, like creating an observer or a witness, thus reinforcing the subject-object split. The third is fading. Even trying to attain a cessation or letting go or surrendering can be exit strategies for you to dissociate and avoid being yourself. Someone asked me what the Buddha is. I said a Buddha is someone who can utterly and be completely yourself while simultaneously transcending the self. There's no particular way a Buddha can be because he's completely patternless. The root awakening for a lot of people is that our entire spiritual path, inclusive of all the techniques that we've been training, like Vipassana, self-inquiry, and do-nothing meditation, can be a way to bypass. Not saying these practices aren't useful tools, but without the right view, without the fitness to rest and recognize, these very practices might be reinforcing the very afflictions and conditionings that got us here in the first place. Thus, we're still stuck in the catch-22 loop of samsara. In total, we have more than 12 mentors and instructors who have realized their true nature. This Saturday, following the CC tradition of the weekend debrief, there'll be a Saturday review at 10 a.m. Eastern Time where the entire community gets together to review this week's materials and transmissions. So to be sure to be there, if you've missed some of this week's sessions, registration link is in the description. Come sit for yourself and test your realization fitness, brah.
As practitioners and meditators, we are studying fundamentally our minds and our experience and pretty much how we mold our experience. Mostly we're not even aware we're doing that. That's kind of 99% of the issue. For most of us, life just happens to us. But the presentation of Dharma is fundamentally what it's saying is that everything is your own doing. And in yesterday's conversation, I think, and the day before, I think we were really trying to grasp what is even meant by contact. And I was really thinking very deeply on it for these last couple of days. Because I know what contact is for me, but that doesn't mean I know what contact is for each one of you guys.
What is contact? To sum it up, if you're having an experience right now, there's unavoidable contact between you and reality. Right? Your senses are firing all the time. If you're thinking, mental activities is the contact. Seeing, visual field is contact. Hearing, then sound is contact. Touch, smell, taste, whatever the case may be. And you're grounding yourself in direct contact with the quote-unquote present moment. But since there's no separation anywhere, a better way to put it is that reality is always contacting itself, or that contact is always contacting itself. What you tune into doesn't matter all that much. What matters is that you understand the mechanism of how contact and feeling co-arise. Even when you feel like you aren't making contact with anything, which is impossible as long as you're alive, well, how do you know that you aren't feeling anything? There's contact there. You're contacting the feeling of not feeling anything, which is a feeling. Right? Even when you're experiencing like formless awareness, whatever, there's contact and a qualia to the experience of being formless. Even when you're proliferating, right, you're contacting the feeling of being lost in thought. There's a pressure point in the head, right? That's contact. So you can never not be present.
But I think a good way to sum it up for myself would be a great teacher used the word, he used the question, avoiding relationship. And I would change it to avoiding intimacy. Contact means intimacy. We have a lot of weird things with intimacy and particular preferences with intimacy. Mostly we have a lot of conditions to intimacy. Mostly we have a lot of fears. Mostly a lot of avoidance. And the fundamental question is, can we be intimate with our experience? Can we actually relate with our experience. Mostly we just accept what we like and we reject what we don't like. Or we insist in what we don't like.
So, welcome everybody to day 2 of Public Practice Week. Um, Today was pretty dense. Today's transmission was pretty dense, and a lot of important stuff was talked about that built right on what Taylor discussed yesterday. So, while yesterday was somewhat about the fact that we are exiting the experience, today was a lot more about understanding exactly the ways in which we do that. And not just that, but why we even do that. So, during the transmission, Taylor laid out essentially 3 ways of exit that are generally noticed. And it's each one of us has our own ways. Sometimes it seems like we're doing multiple or these things change, but usually we predominantly have a particular pattern that we resort to when we have to escape from experience in that way. And I'll just quickly go over the 3 that were discussed today so that we can, take the discussion forward from there. The first one was insisting, which essentially means that there is something about the experience that we don't like or we deem unfit, and we need it to change in some way. Now, this can come from a history of practice as well. This can be a reflection of prior techniques that have tried to specifically create certain states while staying away from others. And certain emotions, maybe, or certain bodily sensations, any sort of particular configuration of your being that is being prioritized over another. And when that happens, sometimes we insist that it should be that way. Maybe it's a reflection of the experiences we've had before or what we think defines would be a good experience. So that's one. The second one that we spoke about was distancing. This is essentially, and honestly, probably my most common way of exiting the present moment. It's basically when the intensity or the contents of whatever is going on are, for whatever reason, untenable. There's some resistance to it. And then the way to deal with that is just by distancing from it. This can even mean as an observer who is just, so to speak, watching the thoughts go by, that sort of thing. It can also mean just stepping away from the discomfort and the pain and maybe reducing the resolution on it, reducing the clarity so that it's not as in your face. And in general, just creating any sort of separation there. And the third one was fading, where fading is sort of lowering the energy, the intensity of the whole situation overall in a way that there is a certain loss of clarity there. And we don't really have the ability to trace our engagement and understand what exactly is going on. Yeah, how was the sit for you guys? Did you guys notice any of these particular patterns showing up?
Yes, after yesterday's session, I've been noticing how I've been exiting my experience, and while during today's sit, it seems like there was a lot of energetic moments in my body. And primarily, what I felt was I was insisting my being to be in a certain way, holding on to certain ways of practice, like breath work or focusing on the thoughts, writing down thoughts to get into some kind of configuration. But somehow today, from the morning, I have been feeling like experience just goes on and I don't have to do anything about it. And that has been my experience throughout the talk as well.
Okay. And how was the experience during the sit? Or did it feel like a flow? Did it feel like there was resolution in what was going on?
I think it was full of flow.
Mhm.
And a bit scary at some moment, like control was getting out of my hand.
I guess the important thing I'd say in that sort of a situation is to know the distinction between resting and distancing. Sometimes it can seem like when we are allowing the flow of everything to just pass ahead of us, that we're not exiting in some way. In a sense, the sort of metric for that is to see if resting by engaging, are you coming into even more sensitivity with what is going on? Is there even more sensitivity and intimacy with the flow of experience? You said it was like that, so that's great. Sometimes for some people, that sort of observation of the whole flow results in like a distance from it. And sometimes that's an unwillingness to feel like the fear that you're talking about.
It's so interesting, right? Why is it that just sitting down and I think Alex was sharing at first about there's some different ways to take in this space. There could be the case that you just let that slide and then you see how you want to understand is the thing that you're insisting upon. Like, oh, say the word, say the word. What does it mean? Oh, I see. Because you're trying to catch and understand everything.
Like my usual technique is kind of like to know that I exist, and then everything is like an object into it. And then when I applied it to what Taylor was talking about today, I was learning how like integrating that. Basically, he was saying a lot of things that made sense. And fundamentally, I was realizing that I was still insisting that it has to be a certain image. Like I have to exist prior to all the objects in the screen. Like it was quite clear for me that my method, just to see that I exist, I am, prior to everything, is kind of like related to the discussion that he was talking about. So that's kind of my share.
Yeah, is that coming from like a sort of I am practice
Yes.
that you worked with before?
I was mixing them up, just allowing it kind of like don't have the insistence or rejection of certain thoughts. Because there are certain traumas that did come up to me during this sit where my I am practice was allowing me to realize, oh, there's still things in the object subject experience where I was pushing things away. I didn't want to see them. And it kind of like being in the session helped me realize that the I am experience includes what he didn't use those words, but I think that the I am technique is what he was talking about, if I'm correct.
There's a difference there in terms of the technique of I am, and I have somewhat of a limited understanding. Frank, maybe you could help fill me in on this. In terms of what exactly the bridge is between that insistence of I am and this sort of open contact that we are doing, where in sort of the I am, in the way that I understand it, there's still construction, and the scale of that construction is broad, sure, but then there is still a certain lens.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Arthur. Well, how are you practicing that?
No.
I was, there's
The
so
way
many
I-
ways. Yeah, like I was just wondering how you are approaching I am, because there are so many ways that I think you can construct the I amness, and there's different implications of it. Actually, all three exit strategies can be included in the I am from the way I understand it, because you're constructing this spacious, vast awareness, which now sure you can utilize that as the entry point to contact, but it could be also utilized as a way to exit too, right? Because you're constructing the spaciousness in which you can what's the first one? Insist. Yeah, you insist that, oh, my reality has to be the spaciousness, has to be this sense of like awareness. My identity has to be pinned onto awareness. Anything that isn't spacious or isn't the I amness is somehow less truthful or less enlightened, right? Or it could be the second exit where it's, what is it, distancing. You could easily use the I amness as a buffer to distance yourself away from looking at some things that needs to be processed. I'm not saying everyone does that. I'm saying that there's inclination to do that. And the third one is what is it? Dissociating? Oh, fading, right? A lot of people go to the I am, they would just fade into the I am, or even like, I don't know, just fall asleep, or everything's happening, I don't need to deal with it. And they just either become even less energetic, less alert. But it could be the other way too. You could utilize the I am and boot up a lot of energy too. So it depends on how you relate to it.
The way I relate to it is like it's just a screen. Like the I am is a screen, and all objects, all object subjects are in that screen. So I use the I am kind of like a little bit like a protective measure because I don't like what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So I have the I am, and then everything else is just like I just let it play out in my mind, and I just don't make my mind or even my insights as significant. because they're just part of the I am. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, so you can see how that's like in a certain way a mode of distancing, right? Where it's like a safe distance from um, inhabiting the am, and then experiencing the all of the supposed suffering that comes with being an am, like being embodied in that way as a specific rather than a general, because we are embodied in that way. And regardless of the nature of awareness being broad, we still function as embodied beings moving through that, which is why people struggle with this aspect of staying dissociated and yet it not integrating and landing, because at the end of the day, you're still a person embodied going through life, having like one-to-one interactions with beings. And this is sort of like noticing that is sort of the first step where if there's a tendency to require that space, insist, or use that space to distance. So yeah, this is pretty interesting territory. Like people tend to find fairly functional ways to go about their lives here, without necessarily always seeing the ways that they are still maybe perhaps sneakily engaging in these ways of exit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very common tendency to like not want to be like a small self, an ego. I don't want to be author, therefore I am awareness, and then treating everybody as like as the substance of awareness is all a dream. It can be functional up to a certain point, but that doesn't mean that you're not utilizing that to bypass a lot of stuff that you don't want to look at.
It's not that abiding awareness is always an exit strategy, right? Sometimes it could be a form of avoidance. Other times you can actually use awareness to make direct contact. But the key is, do you recognize what you're doing? And are you taking full ownership of your maneuvers and the totality of your experiences? If you practice in the I amness or like the Michael Taft's do nothing meditation, there's usually a view in substantializing awareness, or like the big self or whatever you're not seeing, therefore creating that extra buffer between you and reality. And that's why Anatta is like seeing through even the emptiness of awareness.
And as long as you're surrendering into something or to something, it's not surrendering. But if you take on the responsibility, the ownership of the problem, whatever you want to fix, then of course awareness fixes itself. But you are not separate from awareness anymore. So you have to step in. It's your problem again.
It just seems like for certain problems, like all you have to do is just like really see what's going on, like recognize, oh, this problem is completely constructed by thoughts, and like really all it is just letting awareness take care of it, and that is the solution in that moment for some things, not for everything, not for like, oh, I want to work out more, I'll just let awareness take care of that. It's like, well, you should probably just go to the gym.
Oh, but that's the same mechanism. If you're not separated from awareness, like going to the gym is that awareness taking care of itself.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, but I guess like for some things, like in a sit, if you're like, oh, my mind is so restless, it's like, okay, well, okay, like let awareness take care of it. Like that does seem like a very skillful maneuver sometimes, and maybe more than sometimes. I don't know, because I think when you were talking to Matthias, there was like something about how, oh yeah, like surrender is your escape, and I didn't really understand that completely. There's probably like a nuance that I'm missing.
Yeah, that's where Euroframing comes into play, because it is not inherently wrong to surrender. We need surrender at some point, but if I say like surrender can be an exit strategy, and you are like not surrendering anymore because you think, oh no, I have to go to the other extreme, that's just a way to hold up the coherence, and like that's like another extreme. So yeah, what Matthias said is not inherently wrong or like true, but it depends on the view. Like what I did is point out the view in this maneuver.
Yeah, that's why it's like when we talk about resting and recognizing, yeah, it's on one level, it's extremely simple, but then it's like an umbrella term for like a very deep, yeah, it's like how you relate to surrendering and how you relate to awareness. That's the view refinement. It's like from a more conventional level, not all experience of awareness are equal. Not all types of surrendering are equal. like the degree of depth in which you can rest and recognize the difference between like sentient beings and Buddhas. So of course you can say, oh, rest and recognize, but the degree of the fitness to rest and the degree of recognition makes all the difference. And that's also like Payne say, yeah, surrender. A lot of the times in the spiritual community, we're like, oh, let's just surrender, let's just surrender, let's just let go, let go. But what does that even mean? Like how we recognize the mechanism of surrendering.
Yeah.
At the sort of level, right? How do we relate to even surrender? What are we surrendering to? So those are the deeper layer of like, the ontological framework around this very simple concept, seemingly, oh, let's just let go, let's just surrender, let's just rest and recognize. That's the nuance when it comes to viewfinder and fitness.
From my perspective, and I'm coming from a self-inquiry type of practice. That's how my first awakening came about. So while I guess you guys are familiar with Angelo Di Lullo. I know you're are friends with him. While I was listening to this transmission, and I was sort of being asked to see the point of separation or distancing, or where I'm detaching from the moment, the feeling that I get is it's just another thought. And I am sort of confused by that, because maybe it's the type of practice that got me here that's not being useful anymore. And it confronts this new way of approaching it. Because to me, like, yeah, see when you get distant, or see the point where you're getting distant from this moment. It's just a thought appearing, and like it's not coming from me, because it's seen through that there's no thinker. So while I see there's no thinker, it's just appearing all in this sort of space. I don't know how to call it. I cannot put a finger on it, because the moment I put a finger on it, it's just another thought. I don't know, maybe I'm just in a feedback loop. I don't know how to maneuver or how to get out of that. And I don't know if I'm being requested to do something different from just noting the contact. I mean, because I was experiencing like, okay, I'm just fully there with the transmission. Actually, the words that are coming out that I'm hearing feel like myself. The sound itself sounds like I am being the sound at that moment. And then are you asking me to notice when there's something that suggests that I am not that sound itself, and that sort of breaks from that sound itself? Hopefully this makes sense, but that's sort of how do I do that? Okay. I lower the hand. Okay. That's my question, I guess.
Yeah. So if I understand it correctly, the first part of the question, where you were referring to having a particular thought, or not even just a thought, the fact that you were thinking about exiting itself. In a certain sense, that by the point that you have reached that thought, it's already downstream. So if you are in the moment where you're thinking about what exit has happened, what have I been doing, then attention has already been moved from that sort of sense of rest. And now you're essentially contending with what is happening. So that's already downstream. And what we're doing is we're not trying to track that exit all the way and figure out what it is. We're sort of trying to track the moment before you knew anything about it in the first place. There was a certain sense of rest, a continued rest that was there, that from which we are exiting in different ways. And then that exit might be perceived through our own lenses of practices and our own ideas of what a thought is, what awareness is, what a self is, whatever structures we're used to. Then those structures will impute upon that movement away, and then try to understand it in the way that we're used to. Right? But what we're trying to rest is before you even knew that you exited. Can we continue to rest in that point? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
It's a lot more
I guess
direct. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
gonna say this practice is a lot more direct than just seeing that it's a thought, because there's still like a latency when you realize something is a thought and you're making a distinction between, oh, this is just a thought, and then there's something else that isn't that, and then you're trying to like, oh, seeing that as a thought. You know what I mean? It's like in that moment, it's almost like there's a tendency to like villainize thought in that kind of practice, where they still kind of create a very subtle distinction between, oh, this is a thought, therefore it's an illusion, and I should be contacting something else. But in this practice, it's even more direct in that, in the sense that when you are lost in thought, or even feeling like this is just a thought, then you contact that thought. That it doesn't matter if it's a thought or not. You just contact that sensation of that thought, and in that moment, then you are making direct contact with reality. Whereas like a lot of the practices where it kind of like villainize thought, that it's like you're not supposed to be in thought, therefore you're trying to get away from a thought to land in another space, say awareness, something like this more direct than thought, right? So but now we're not even trying to do that. We're like in that moment when you're realizing that you are exiting, then right there you can make contact immediately with even a thought. The thought
Yeah, this
becomes a
is why
point
the
of
term.
absorption. Yeah, you can be absorbed into thoughts. That's fine, and then you are in direct contact with reality. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is why,
it
in a
makes
sense, the
sense.
word rest is really like one of the ways, one of the important ways to look at this. Because when we recognize that we're exiting in some way, right, the point is not to try to stop it, because then you are insisting on not insisting.
Yeah.
You're insisting on not exiting. You're just doing an insistence in the opposite direction, saying that this is the way I've been exiting. I don't want to do that anymore. So then basically you're left with the question of what do you do? And that is to, like the point that I just mentioned, it's to stay there to the best of our ability and to remain in contact with what is happening.
Also, resting.
Yeah.
A lot of people think resting
Yeah.
has to be like a certain state, like a peaceful state, or like stillness, or even like creating this buffer around experience where you can rest in. But then when we're talking about rest, it's just the fitness to be with whatever's arising. If it's chaos, you rest as chaos. If it's restlessness, you rest as restlessness.
Yeah, stability is probably a better word.
Stability, yeah. But then with rest, with stability, there comes the recognition. Because I think I talk a lot about this practice being like actually very simple. It's just resting, recognizing ultimately. But then the resting, recognizing is also not separate. When you have the stability to rest as your experience, there is a recognition of it. And then the more recognition you have of it, the more you can stabilize. So it's almost like a feedback loop. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because for the experience that for at least for my experience at this point, like the only way to recognize, I'm not experiencing some observer apart from the thought. Maybe it's sort of intertwined with the thought, and it goes the same for the sounds. Or now that I'm looking at you guys, whatever, it's pretty similar, all this stuff. So the only way to recognize what's going on is from what's going on already, right? So any point of detachment from that's a recognition your guys are talking about, right? If I'm making sense of all of it, just to really know where when attention detaches from the moment.
Yeah, I would say the contact itself is already the recognition. Like the recognition isn't being done from an observer. Ultimately, it's like wherever the sensation is, wherever you recognize there's contact, that's the recognition right there. Yeah, like the kind of like everything is sensation kind of view. Yeah. And then you can see how sometimes we subtly create an observer to like distance ourselves away from an experience. Yeah. Even that sense of like, oh, it's just a thought. It's just a thought. I'm not saying that practice isn't legit, but then it's almost like the I amness practice too. It's like you insist reality has to be a certain way. There's a subtlety in that as well. It's like, okay, I have to see everything as a thought. Otherwise, then or that there's some kind of almost a reifying thought in a way. Yeah, in like a paradoxical way. Yeah. To even maybe not want to feel feelings or something, or just a thought. It's just a thought. It's just awareness.
Yeah, a lot of it is just not wanting to feel
Yeah, a lot of it is
feelings.
actually just bypassing. A lot of your
A lot
spiritual
of it is
practices, a
just
lot of
that.
it you're just bypassing the hallway here.
Just you using all these perceptual
all this
geometries
technique
to
to
just
I don't
avoid
want to
feeling.
be myself. I actually don't want to. I hate this reality. Let's go into the awareness. Let's just see everything's a thought, so I don't have to deal with shit. He's
Yeah.
exactly doing the same thing as the white guy you hit in this first place. And now you're just doing with spiritual practice. And you don't even realize you're doing that. But then when you hear me say this, you don't want to do this. God, he's just talking nonsense.
Yeah, I was doing just the same kind of like as Kant said, like to me, like only go with the emotion, no vipassana, no jhana. Like I just let me just little bit more with the jhana, and just like I just went fully only. I took this dissociation, like with just only like me blissing out there.
Yeah.
Like there was like the presence still like somewhere out there. I just kind of like felt like the presence is like calling me or something like that, but like I don't know, like
No, I'm not saying all the spiritual practices are useless. Obviously, I've done all that spiritual practices, right? But then, do you recognize that actually, up to a certain point, maybe these practices are just a way for you to perpetuate your karmas instead of seeing through the patterns? Yeah, obviously, we need all these practices up to a certain point. Yeah, to cultivate like jhana's concentration, to separate a thought from direct experience. That's useful to a certain point, right? But then we tend to just get stuck on that because they worked for us in the past. But then, like Tyler said, whatever worked for us in the past that helped us see through some patterns is now the thing that's keeping us from going deeper.
Yeah, it's what works, not what is,
Yeah, yeah,
that we prioritize.
yeah. All the techniques are kind of very contextual, right? It works under this context. But do you see the entire ontological system that houses your practice, and including the benefits you get from the practice? Do you see that that's actually still contained in a certain view?
So if I may, effectively, what I gather is that it's this movement away from being rigid around specific practices and just abiding more within what's currently here. And Shriyesh, if I'm pronouncing your real name correctly, you said a few things just then, and it's this about this rest, this stability, this calm or peace or whatever the word you want to put there is, that if given the room, will itself naturally deepen. And it is that space of rest that, from what I gather, there is this habit of avoiding, of exiting by the three ways that were described today. And so it seems as if to me it's just this perpetual just looking at whatever is happening right now, and then just sort of just falling back more. And I don't really, that's about as, yeah.
Yeah, the resting is it can go very, very deep. Actually, it's so simple, but it can the depth of it can be very deep. And when you say like falling back, that could be a maneuver to rest, sure. But ultimately, to be honest, like this resting thing is not a maneuver at all. It's just what is. But then there can be maneuvers
Yeah.
to kind of make you recognize clearly already what is. Yeah.
That's why rest is sort of
So-
defined in the negation and not the affirmative. So it's not necessarily a place where you are experiencing calm and peace or whatever, because rest, you could be resting through a bunch of terror or like depression or whatever, and it would still be resting. And it is defined as resting by whether you're fucking with it or not. Whether you're doing the exits, doing all of the stuff that you're used to doing. That's sort of what makes it rest, not as like an affirmative state of a certain bliss or calm or a lack of discomfort or suffering, but more in that we notice how we are exiting from when those things come up.
I guess another way to describe.
Wow. So it's
Go ahead.
please no please
Yeah,
please go for it.
that's a really good point about the negation part. It's like resting occurs when you see all this is not rest in the sense that could be a new verb. But it's like resting. If you're not resting, that just means you're wishing reality to be different than what it is. That's all there is. So if you're being chaotic, if you don't want this chaos, and you try to create a space, actually that's like a pseudo rest. right? But like I say, it's okay to use that as a maneuver to finally to then see, okay, I'm actually creating that distance still. But then you just allow that to happen continuously. So like falling back could be a kind of like what it feels like. Yeah, it just continues to allowing experience to unfold without creating any kind of resistance to wish it to be other than what it is. Not even a single particle. And that could be anger, that could be frustration, all that could be rest. Yeah, yeah. So paradoxically, a place of stillness
So
could be
really, it's
like
just
not
like
resting
letting.
at all. When you try to not feel like whatever is happening, I'm very angry. Therefore, I'm gonna just like boost up this jhana so like I can like buffer it. In that sense, that's kind of like anti-rest from that the more relative. Yeah, yeah.
It's just a willingness to really just show up and just
Just
be
just to let it
here,
to
really, and just with everything. And so there's absolutely nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And it's just wow.
Mm-hmm. And then if you're in that space,
It seems
well, there's recognition. Automatically, there is the presence, because presence and rest, it's inseparable. Yeah. What's it getting in the way of recognition? The presence is just your obscurations and all the resistance that's filtering what's already awake.
yeah, I can see yeah, I can see within myself at least, just as an example right now, there's this sense of like wanting some sense of validation or some sort of not approval, but this affirmation that yeah, it's there's nothing else to look for, there's nothing else to do, there's no jhana you need to sort of fucking drop into. It's just being with this, and then in that there's a sense of ease that just sort of like, oh, I don't need to ask for permission to be in a whatever way that may be, because it's already happening. In wow, interesting. I'm going to sit with this after this.
Yeah, but still, that doesn't mean like jhanas are necessary, right? Because even
Yeah.
that could be a view that you're holding on to. Oh, I don't need to do any jhanas. I don't even need to practice. But then you're still like there's still resistance. Yeah, yeah. So very tricky, right? This view refinement.
We have a
Yeah, I just need to say, just in saying all this, I think all of you are incredible. I think what this space, I mean, I can just say from my experience, just showing up yesterday and today, it's just it's a really wonderful thing you guys are doing. And so I have a lot of gratitude for you all.
I feel like for me, it's boredom largely. Um, and it's weird because I'm trying to like put my finger on what boredom is. Like that's the main feeling I feel during like these long sits. It's just bored, but like I don't even really, what does that even mean to be bored? And it feels like physical, like maybe something in my chest, but I can't quite put my finger on like what exactly it is or where it is. All I know is that like without fail, like every 10 to 15 seconds, it's like that boredom that makes me like use some sort of exit strategy. Um, and like the sit was like really, I feel like physically difficult for me like yesterday. And like like really just strongly feeling like super restless, like feeling pain. Um, and I feel like that was like amplified by whatever this like boredom is, and then also amplified by the fact that I'm like trying to like notice every exit, and it's just like sort of like compounding, like kind of like a fractal, like you keep like noticing the exit, like noticing like the noticing, and it's like a very like self-aware and yeah, it was tough. But I felt that like after that sit, like yesterday, like it was an amazing day. And I was noticing like those exits throughout the day. And it was like a really good strategy for me to stay present. And like because I wasn't like sort of like meditating for the rest of the day, it wasn't like I was constantly going to like this loop of like self-reflection. It was just like, oh, like there's like a really small, like benign exit strategy. Like maybe I was walking outside yesterday and just like pulling out my phone and like what am I trying to exit right now? But I am. And like just that like noticing was enough to like bring me back into the present. Um so like it didn't feel like a good sit in the moment, and it felt like very restless and very felt very bored, a lot of torpor. But yeah, it carried through into my day in a way like I didn't expect.
That's a really cool share, Alex. It reminds me of like certain workouts we have, like physical training, where the workout itself wasn't great in terms of its quality. It's like, oh, that was just so tough, a lot of resistance, a lot of wanting to stop working out. But then afterwards, like you have a pretty good day, having done the workout. It's like you see some of the spillover in fitness, and just you saw little glimpses of catching ways you exit, even when you weren't holding that intention to be, observing, but it was just happening. And yeah, that's really cool. I mean, just we've only had 2, 3 days of formal training in this way, and maybe it changes the way we start, or the way that we judge our sits, right? Like the sit was filled with lots of challenges, and in your case, boredom, but that might actually be the very juice that's sort of cultivated and mined, in terms of the amount of time that you're exerting. Yeah, it sounded like that was a pleasant surprise. What happened?
Yeah. And I mean, I've done enough meditations and enough like workouts to know that like a tough workout or a tough meditation doesn't always result in, you immediately eating like the fruits of your labor. Like sometimes it makes you feel worse. Um, so I think I know not to expect it, but you're right. Like it's a pleasant surprise when it does happen because I know, not to expect it every time. I try to not set those expectations either because I think that's another way I can like, start judging my sits, right? And I try not to, prejudge or like post-judge, just let it be what it is. But yeah, nice surprise.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar situation as you, Adrian, where I think at some point I kind of just like fell asleep and then I woke up or like came to and I was like, oh, we gotta go join the group. And like, so I don't know at what point I joined the breakout group, but yeah, I think a lot of it was maybe like some sort of like tiredness or exhaustion of like I was trying to catch like these exits, like, okay, am I present? Okay, now I'm not. And then I was like, even that process, I'm like, is this how I should be doing it? Like I'm like I was like getting tired of like catching myself and I was like, okay, this is annoying or like I don't know, it was and then at some points I was just kind of like phase out and I was like, wait, when did that happen? And I was kind of going like in and out during the transmission and I was like, okay, wait. I was like, oh, it was only like 2 seconds. I thought I was like gone for way longer and then I'd come back in and it was kind of this like yeah, just cycle of in and out and just like trying to catch like, okay, how long was I not paying attention for? How long was I not making contact? Um, so yeah, I think that's what came up for me. And I'm not sure like why I was so tired and I guess why I was having more difficulty being engaged during this sit today. But I guess it's kind of funny to know that it wasn't just me, or maybe some other people experienced the same thing.
I'm curious, Ramon, for you, does that postures show up in life as well? Like a sort of what comes up when you're describing, it's like gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all, like the Pokemon kind of. It's like you have these maybe oscillating between really exerting and really trying hard, earnestly trying your hardest, but then hitting walls or coming into exhaustion, falling asleep, right? It's like these extremes of exert, 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 and then just like burn out, fade away, check
I
out.
think so. I think now that you say it, like, yeah, I think I do go through these periods of like, yeah, like intense effort and like, earnest, like really trying to attain this goal or whatever, whatever I set for myself, and then kind of like burning out, like, oh, all right, I gave it all I had, and now I gotta reset or like, I don't know, recharge my battery or whatever it is that, um, yeah.
Is that could almost be like its own, like what happened in that sit and today could be telling in terms of just your trajectory with like say projects, where you tend to kind of have a really good start, you come out hot and you're going, but maybe the lack of pacing or knowing when to, yeah, basically pace throughout so you can sustain that journey. So follow through becomes really difficult. Maybe beginning of relationships are always hot in the beginning, but then it's that middle phase. It's like, so the sit itself actually sometimes is revealing a fractal, a pattern that we can start seeing actually other areas of life. That same thing happens, so it's not about nothing wrong with the earnestness so much. I think in that case, it'll be more about being more gradual and spacing it out, perhaps, being more strategic and how you're exerting energy over the long run.
Yeah, I think I know. Maybe it was yesterday. I know, and Taylor talked about kind of like rest. I know it's something that's come up before, just like kind of knowing, or just like rest in general, like how to, instead of it being like something you do, but more of like a kind of like a quality or I guess like a state or something like. Yeah, I think it's something I've been trying to, I don't know, like incorporate or something. Just kind of like you mentioned, pacing and.
I've struggled with tiredness for many years now, and it goes up and down how well I deal with it. Yeah, so it's really insightful to see all of these dynamics, how they correspond, how they relate to the tiredness. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, tiredness is an interesting one. I had a big phase as well for like a good 6 months ish, where almost every sit I'd fall asleep. But yeah, it in a way it was also just one thing that wanted to be expressed. And then when I let myself experience the tiredness, which kind of sucked, it wasn't very fun to experience. But then like the need to actually pass out and blank out from it would go away.
Yes, I've tried
through
to do that
experiencing it.
too. But I'm interested in how you did it, because if I do this, I notice that my dreams will get really intense. So I'm still not completely resting. When I wake up, I still feel tired, and sometimes even more tired.
You
So
mean like
it's just
if you're fall
I'm
asleep in your
forcing
sit or
myself
just in
to
general?
sleep.
Yeah, I think it's tricky, right? Dullness is something that really
Yeah, because on one
um
hand,
the- go ahead.
it's true that on one hand, I am pushing away something, which is the reason why I feel tired. It creates tiredness. So I shouldn't push that away. I should just let it come over me and just fall asleep, so to say. But when I try to do that, it's like I'm forcing it to happen. So my dreams get more intense, and I wake up more tired.
Well, maybe instead of seeing it as, some tiredness that's looming on the horizon that you either have to push away or move towards, this is the part where, and I can tell you this because you've been a part of CC before, this is where you just experiment with that aspect of being it. Not the structure of it coming over you diving into it or pushing away from it, but just like fully being it. And then that can intensify it for a while as a byproduct of that, but that's fine. Like we're okay with that
Okay.
intensification and feeling through that. So just like maybe you could just try just being it,
Okay.
I mean,
right?
even
Instead of the
just
relationship.
There can be
even
like
just following this
fatigue.
discussion.
It's like there's tiredness that could be intensified, but you're not being tired. That's kind of what it feels like. It feels like you're totally engaged, but there is a sense of like nothing is really being afflicted. Like there's still the affliction of fatigue, but that you're not being afflicted because there's no distance. You're not neither, like you said, neither trying to distance yourself from it or like, oh, I gotta feel it coming into it. So then there's not that subtle distinction between you and the tiredness. And as a byproduct,
Mhm.
it Yeah, as a bipolar in general, you just don't feel as tired even amongst the fatigue. I don't know how to explain it. It's very interesting. It's like the conditioning is not apart from the unconditioned, which nothing can touch the unconditioned, right? Nothing can touch the unconditioned, but then it's not apart from the condition. You accept the condition as it is, neither resisting nor non-resisting. You change your relationship to your afflictions. It's ultimately what it's about, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing though, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate
that's a big topic.
the
A
way
lot of
in which
people
you're
struggle with this.
describing it real time.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You should go to Vicky.
Hey,
Yeah,
Vicky.
hi guys. I'm so excited to be here. Like I can't go to an official boot camp because I don't have like 5 years of meditation experience. So, but I'm glad to be here. So just to check it out, you know. But anyways, my question is, so I have two questions. Like, is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So basically, like, my first question is, like. Like Taylor talks about like discipline and intuition. And I feel like they're like opposite things because intuition is doing what you want to do and discipline is doing what you don't want to do. And so I've recently I have a awakened friend who basically tells me that this is like intuition is the way, like follow your intuition. And like for me, that's like problematic because like Frank, I have bipolar. So like when you follow your feelings, like in the past, like I found that it made me manic. And I've also like listened to a like Frank, you had an interview with Maggie, so I like yeah, I'm a fan obviously. But yeah, like I listened to an interview you had with Maggie and you said like, oh, discipline is actually freedom and stuff like that. So I want to ask like how do you balance discipline with intuition and like which one is actually more important or like are they equally important or like how do you kind of balance this out because like I feel like maybe I should start incorporating discipline more into my life.
Yeah, I don't think they're separate at all, actually. Like it's almost like the more discipline you have in cultivating the qualities, the more aligned your intuition is to your particular disposition or your trajectory, right? It's like where do we get the intuition from, right? There's a system in which the intuition is drawing from, like how we interact with the environment, our nervous system, all that could be cultivated. It's almost like I think my favorite example around this is kind of like you see a jazz musician. He's like, oh, he's all just freestyling. It's all pure intuition. But look how many years the jazz musician has spent in just practicing like classical piano, for example. In order for Picasso to paint like him, like a child, like it's all flow, but he has to learn how to paint like Raphael when he was like 14 years old.
Yeah. So it's kind of like like intuition builds upon like
And vice
discipline. Like is
versa.
that
Yeah, and vice versa, right? How do you become disciplined? In what way that's most efficient to you? That also comes with certain intuition, right? Because you say, "Oh, I'm just gonna be disciplined." You can like just work out. I'm gonna be disciplined, but you might not be efficient. But it takes like reps, right? It takes certain amount of qualities, like intuition, like get the correct intuition on what to do at the gym to make that your discipline even more efficient until even discipline intuition merges as non-separate.
yeah. And that makes sense. And like and the second thing I want to ask about is this is like I'm glad this is coming up because it's really near and dear to my heart. But like one question I'm often faced with as like because I don't have like I often say that patience is like the number one quality on the spiritual path because you don't know when you're gonna be awakened, you don't know when it's gonna happen, like you kind of just have to be patient. But like I'm always like I always find myself like I mean this might be irrelevant. I'm sorry if this is like actually like this might be irrelevant, but I think it's probably relevant to most people. But like let me just ask it and if it's irrelevant, guys, just skip it. But so like because I hear you guys say like oh like this happened like I got my first awakening or like you know today like this happened and I'm just like well stuff is happening to them and I'm just like so frustrated because I'm just like I feel like experiences kind of like do happen to me a little bit, but I'm always like wondering like, oh, like will I be enlightened in this lifetime? Like will it ever happen? Like I'm just like, and I often think like, you know, just like it's never gonna happen to me. Like it's never gonna happen to me. Like like I just like give up because like it's not gonna happen to me. Like so like how do you like handle that mindset of like, like because like I feel like people in CC probably have more progress than other people. Like I'm just guessing, but like how do you kind of like deal with um not like making progress or like thinking that you're never going to make progress and stuff like that? Like do you think that like if you're like intentional about awakening, you definitely will awaken and stuff like that? Like if it's like your number one priority, like you will awaken. Like what do you guys think?
That's a big can of worms.
Big topic.
That's a, I get maybe we can just bring it back to like what are we doing here, like in terms of like day two, public practice week, like how like even that is a way for you to as an entry point for you to rest, for you to see ways that you're exiting, avoiding the present moment. Like instead reality has to be this way. Therefore I become enlightened or whatever. There's a lot of insistence in that, right? You don't want like your present moment experience. Um, Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack, but I think we can just simplify it by bringing it back to like the practice we're doing right now. How are you distancing yourself away from the present moment by ruminating about a future enlightenment? If you just do this and you get that, therefore I'll be enlightened, I'll be happy. There'll be a state in which I can finally rest it. But you can rest right now, right? In what ways are you insisting things to not be this way, therefore, whatever?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
contextualizing it within this week as well, right? It's like there's a certain, um, like maybe to you, you feel a certain way about that desire or that aspiration, and then conversely, because there is that desire or aspiration, if things don't match up to that, then there's like a certain sense of frustration around it. And what we're essentially asked to do this week is to just really feel that because we will have to feel it eventually at some or the other point. um, and so like seeing that indirect experience and allowing that to sort of move and express is kind of like what um, yeah, it's a very big question. It's difficult to answer in the scope of the time we have because we have like a couple minutes left, I think. But within the scope of, I think this week, this is like one of the ways to relate to that desire or aspiration, that would maybe allow you to refine your own relationship to it with time.
Yeah, sorry. Like
Yeah.
I was just like it's something that bothers me, so that's why I asked it. But anyways, like it's okay. Like
Yeah, I
thank
think
you guys
everyone,
so
it's
much.
okay. Everyone has that question, actually. Everyone thinks about that. It's just like we have a certain idea of what awakening is, right? Like there's an consistency to what it should look like. But awakening is not even an experience, dude. It's just resting and recognizing what's always already here. But there can be experiences that come as a byproduct. But a lot of times we cling onto that as like the thing, or like this has to happen in order for me to awaken. But a lot of that is based on an inconsistency of what we think awakening is by the stuff we read online, videos we watch, by what happened in the past that worked for me, whatever. Yeah.
So resting is like the thing to do. Like resting is it.
Yeah. Well, but you don't want to like make that into a thing, right? Like resting is the thing it is. Like you got to think about all those ways you can rest, and you're not resting anymore, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys so much.
So I was just at a 10-day Goenka retreat, and day 3 you focus on the breath or the sensations of the breath, and I reached a sort of absorption state, really blissful, really nice. I've never felt that kind of concentration before, right? In the retreat setting was super nice. And then accidentally I started going into sort of insight territory. Energy blasts all over my body, and they were arising and passing super fast. And I was at the start, it was like, okay, this is this is intense. But then my question is, at what point did I escape? Was it when I started showing like aversion to the sensations, or was it when I opened my eyes to sort of lessen the intensity of the experience?
In what way are you escaping right now?
Ooh. Yeah, I guess I'm feeling a bit stressed about the time.
I mean, sometimes we
some
have this tendency to like want to trace back, right, to like an experience we had and analyze it. In that way, that's the exiting right there. You don't want to be here and you just want to analyze some retreat experiences that isn't even here right now. I'm not saying it's not valid to analyze, right? It's yeah.
Yeah. And Goenka specifically has an insistence on equanimity.
Yeah, yeah.
There is an insistence on that particular state. And then once you are breaking out of that, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily, like you said, it's exiting, but there's an insistence there.
It's kind of bring back to the beginning of the conversation about awareness, right? If you replace awareness with equanimity, then you get the Goenka retreat, right? There's a lot of people that go into Goenka retreat, they come off of the retreat and then they can't integrate at all because life is chaotic and they keep trying to instantiate equanimity, either by insisting this is how practice should be, or they don't want to look at certain things, or they just fade into equanimity and dissociate.
Mm.
And they did that for 20 years. And they wonder why they're not getting anywhere.
Oh, that's interesting.
Crazy shit,
It's
huh?
also it's an important point that Frank is mentioning now, that there is no inherent difference between this discussion and the sit itself, right? The exit strategies are at play even right now. When we are sharing, when we are listening, when we are answering, checking out, whatever is happening right now is the same thing.
Yeah, good job. Good shit, Matt. Good to hear from you, Matt.
I'm quietly taking notes.
Yeah, I enjoyed the discussion. Thank you all for coming. Yeah.
Yeah, great discussion, guys. Thanks
Yeah,
for sharing.
thanks.
I hope everybody got something out of it. And all of you that are distancing by not participating and talking, don't do that tomorrow.
You're on the train of dissociation.
Well, if you do that, you gotta own it too, right? If you're gonna do that, you gotta own it. Own it.
Yeah, then talk about that.
Yeah.
Hard to get off the
All
train.
right, see you guys.
I was just really thinking about what is a great way to articulate in just our normal lives a presentation of intimacy in which we actually have direct contact with reality. And I think a good example is when hopefully all of you have experienced this at least once in your life, where you meet someone and you very much are enamored with them. The room changes when you're with another being you seemingly have fallen in love with. Things are slower. Every detail about them is seemingly interesting. How they move, how they talk, how they smell. It's like you're just suddenly thrown into this warm, beautiful, loving space. You're not going into all your problems about their traumas and your traumas and how they got hurt and you got hurt and how you need them to fix you. Or you're not trying to help them, you're not trying to fix them, you're just with them, you're just being with them, you're just there. And there's not even a particular stance of, is this going to go anywhere? And that hasn't happened yet. Like all the strategies in which you escape the moment to moment contact hasn't happened yet. It's gonna fucking happen. That's why this thing goes away. And then we're just like, love's fake, bro. Love's bullshit. Then you get hurt and it's like, oh, she or he, they're not the same anymore. We don't really even understand intimacy because mostly what we take as natural in our lives is all these ways we exit our experience. And it plays out in every aspect of our lives.
Mei Chen sometimes said that we're never in nature. Nothing's ever alone. It's like you're constantly
Impossible.
impossible. Yeah, it's like you can't really hide, even if you like feel lonely. You're like, I'm in my room, I'm lonely. Right, that feeling of loneliness can be overbearing, but that overbearing is the contact, right? This full contact with the feeling of being lonely, and loneliness presupposes that there are other people. Even if you move to the mountains, that still presupposes you're moving away from a bunch of people you presupposing that exist somewhere down the line. You're constantly
impossible, right?
It's possible, yeah. Like you said about the intimacy, it's like every time you have contact, that's a proof of everything is codependent rising. Like contact, the point of contact is the proof of codependent origination. Like everything is interconnected, even if you think you're alone.
The irony of that, I remember like isolating myself in retreat from
Yeah.
all humanity for months. Didn't talk to a person, didn't fucking talk to anything. Just like it was just me in the woods, and there's for hundreds of miles, no one. And just there, so much intimacy.
So much of it is, yeah, with nature itself. The absence of beings only highlights like every being is there in a sense, yeah.
And these exit strategies we do, or these endless distractions of phones, the internet, even the conversations you have with people, like they're all like avoiding the fact that we're so intimate.
We try to run
Beyond
away
two.
from that. I think that's funny, isn't it? A lot of us try to run away from intimacy all the time. It's too overbearing. We don't have enough fitness to like see that we're constantly intimate with a million things.
Mm-hmm.
Interpenetrating, like
It's natural, right? Because when you are totally intimate with everything, well,
you can get hurt.
Yeah, and you will get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so interesting because what you said about the romance is like at first you think you're in direct contact with your romantic partner because you're like in the honeymoon phase. Well, you insist that romance has to be that way, but it plays to your insistence like in the beginning, like the first 6 months. But then what happens after that is like your view. It's like you're still in direct contact. Yeah, the only
You fucking collapse.
it collapses, but then you're still in contact. But the only difference on a relative level is like your view changed. It's like actually really just simple to just stay in contact immediately. Like even if that shifts, okay, now you're like, okay, actually she's not what I think she is, but there's a lot of pressure to insist her to be a certain way. In that moment, if you shift your view, then it's in direct contact because we insist that intimacy has to be sweet and loving. But then even the feeling of resistance or like the feeling of, man, I hate this person right now, there's direct contact, there's direct
Yeah,
intimacy even with that person. But we insist that, oh, love
Yeah.
has to be like, oh, positive and light. But we don't see that even like rejection is completely intimate. Yeah.
Yeah, and that
It's
oddly
the only
enough, and
difference
that
is view. Yeah.
insistence, right?
Yeah.
The insistence of wanting to be more intimate, wanting to be a certain way, even if it's a good insistence,
Yeah.
is the thing that's pushing away.
Yeah. But then if you shift your view, just like boom, you actually seen that
It's there.
it's there already. Yeah. Yeah. It's actually love that it includes the hate, right?
You have to, it's like we have to free, in a real sense, the other
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
ourselves,
Interesting. Hmm.
right? From our views. Like, and we have to even free ourselves from ourselves. Like,
From ourselves, yeah. Yeah.
we fucking cage ourselves in all these insane fucking views and never let ourselves actually change. Like we're not actually intimate with ourselves even. Like we don't even let ourselves feel the despair, feel the loneliness, feel the fucking rage, like the tiredness, the depression. Like we don't actually go all the way through it. We just label it depression, anger, fear. And then we refuse to see it. We refuse the contact. Because if we're in the moment of contact, you're totally intimate with it, and it just flows through you completely. And then when you're surfing. Right? What is pain but a limitation of you? Where you just stop. Just like you just stop feeling.
Yeah, when you actually just shift that view, it's like all the afflictions can still be there, but then you're not afflicted anymore by them. It's like the affliction just turns into luminosity. It doesn't have to, nothing needs to be changed. No particle, not a single particle needs to be changed.
No.
The only difference is
Yeah.
that orientation towards the right view. And then all the afflictions actually becomes almost like, I don't even want to say the entry point to luminosity, because it's not even like you're going into the affliction and then there's luminosity. It's just like the affliction just becomes the luminosity, becomes the recognition. and that's sort of where the resting is. So the shifting view is actually the shift into rest, which is not like a ground a ground that you cultivate. Like, okay, now I'm gonna rest. Therefore, this is because we
Not a
insist on what
technique.
it is. It's not a technique. Yeah, it's actually an
No.
orientation, a view.
Yeah. You actually have to be like from your position, like you actually have to be like in the fire. Like you actually have to put your neck on the chopping board, like involved there. Like it's not a technique, it's not a it's not like a thing you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're doing is gonna always be like
It's just gonna create
removed.
that tiny little latent tendencies that we like that Taylor is saying the whole transmission, right? It's like that technique, that insistence to have a certain kind of thing that will lead to a certain kind of result in your practice is actually what's getting in the way.
Yeah, that's the that's the fun with surrender, letting go. Like
Yeah.
most all Dharma practice is just fundamentally going to, I mean, in the end, condition the avoidance. There's only one thing.
Let's hear from some people.
Yeah.
I can share something that happened today that was interesting to me. You guys hear me?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, Taylor's talk was really spot on for me, and I saw this pattern that I've been in for like 25 years or more. And it was like crushing me. It was like ruminating on it. It felt like, oh, I can see it, but this is hopeless. I cannot get out of this. It's not possible. There is no solution to this. I can see all sides of it. And it was just like my mind was ruminating, but also like my somatic was like crunching it. And then like maybe an hour in, as we were all sitting there, I was really connected to the container, and I could feel like the container, or like all of you guys, the energy of everyone meditating was sort of like working this thing in me, and was like slowly taking it apart and like releasing all of that energy. And it was obvious that like I wasn't doing it. I mean, I was part of it, but it was like happening to me. And I mean, it's not solved, but it felt so much lighter towards the end, and it's very interesting. And I still don't see the solution, but energetically it's being moved through. So maybe that's enough. I don't have a question. It's just
No, thank you for
aloneness is not happening. Oh, I do want to say another little thing. I did participate in the free week in December, and it felt like for like the 3 months of a CC, I felt connected to the whole thing. Like my own practice went through all of these cycles that I feel were connected to like what was happening in there, even though I couldn't participate. So that was interesting. And yeah, I feel like I went through it in a way energetically with you guys or whoever was there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
a very
a team
interesting
sport. And once your mind stream is connected, like when other people twist up their karma, repattern their karma, your karma gets untwisted too. But you have to be able to like yoke into it. You have to be able to like be
Yeah.
vulnerable and stay in
I've
contact.
always had that ability to yoke into it, but I usually yoke into things that aren't as useful. So yeah, it was difficult and very interesting as well. Yeah, that's why I'm back.
Alex, fundamentally, that's the power of practicing with other people. Is that you will have gains that you would normally not be able to do alone.
Yeah.
Something to consider.
And I feel the need for Sangha, basically. I'm not able to do it alone.
So I think yesterday I was thinking, I mean, I sort of felt that fading was kind of like my typical exit. But then today I kind of realized fading is sort of my exit when I'm like practicing, but in my actual life, it's actually just a ton of insistence, or you could call it resistance or something like that. just this intense sense of like not good enough.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. It's the Asian thing.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's interesting though, like the kind of it's like the with sitting practice, it becomes your kind of release valve where it's like, okay, finally I can just like not fucking do the thing I'm normally doing.
Yeah, I was thinking there was some, I mean, somebody mentioned there's kind of like an addictive quality to it.
Yeah. Well, it's a I mean, I guess it's better than drugs. Or like drinking, right? In a real way.
Maybe not if
It's
you mix
actually
drugs and meditation.
that's true. That's true. That's true. But there is a way we can ultimately use even meditation as a way to fundamentally release our tensions and really kind of like, finally I can have some relief. And I think that's really healthy for the most part. But in the end, kind of orientation towards that relief will kind of blind us, right? Because it's like, well, we're not particularly interested in what's actually going on. We're interested in relief. Frank, isn't that like the orientation towards cessation, you think?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, going back to what's your name, bro? Sorry, I couldn't see you. Derek.
Sure.
I think insistency and fate, like the three X is actually just different ways of describing the same thing. It's like you insist that you're not good enough, therefore you want to fade. And I do see like even my own practice before, like there's a insistence towards cessation. Like I had a view of have to annihilate every part of the self, for example, doing a certain portion of the path. That was like my insistency. Therefore, I always just like go after cessations. Like in fact, if I had a cessation, even if the entry to cessation is actually dissociation, I thought I had a great sit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is very particular. Anthony, you're here, right? This is the same goddamn conversation I had with you. Let's play it through. Like where this ultimate leads to is that you because eventually you become a really, really good meditator and you're able to actually like have cessation and literally blip the fuck out of here. And then that won't last. And then you come back and you're just like, fuck, I'm back. Like that oscillation will only lead you to the monastery.
Yeah, that's why people keep going back to Vipassana retreats, like their
Yeah.
insistency on equanimity, right?
It's
Or
designed
river,
it's designed to just like really make you just despise appearance and like the complexities of this world and then you just orientate towards a renunciate life. One has to be careful what we are doing with our practice in view and play it forward where it's actually headed. Because you if you're not interested in being a monastic, then you might want to practice in a way that allows you to live your normal life in a way that's like not as pressured.
yeah. That's why we call this invisible monastery, 24/7. Oh, sorry, cat.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because if not, also it can just become like a pendulum between insisting and distancing all the time, right? It's like trying to make it work, and then when it doesn't work, distancing. Like the same with life. Like, oh, I want this kind of like solo, just gonna meditate. This life isn't like giving me what I want or working out the way I want. And so I distance myself from it.
Yeah, I used to do that.
Me
It's
too.
like the idea of stoicism, right? Like you can't get what you want in life, so then what do? Well, you lower the fucking bar to participate, to actually relate. It actually means you're involved. You got neck in the, you got your neck in the game, man. Yeah, that's sobering up. And it's not particularly comfortable, and Dharma is not particularly comfortable. Dharma is mostly feels like you're just being slapped.
I noticed there's a pattern for me of, and it takes 1,000 different forms, but it's something like there's nothing trustworthy in life.
Funny
And one
because
level,
you
it's
actually want to feel
absolute.
like that. You actually want to feel like that so that you can continuously instantiate that self view so you don't have to deal with other things that would have to be dealt with if things are trustworthy. Because like we said, everything you experience your whole life, you chose it in a way, even the things that you don't want. There's no phenomenon occurring in your life that you don't want actually. Even the things that you say you don't want, you actually want it. So you
Yeah,
want to
because
suffer.
what you could but what he could do if he really wanted to change the situation fundamentally is you become trustworthy.
Like you said, almost like trusting the tendency of not trusting anything, like trust that you don't trust anybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like drug dealers. You know what you're working with.
Yeah, yeah. It's like taking full ownership with it, right? It's that's why like up to a certain point you never get confused, like ever. Even when you're confused, you're not confused about your own confusion.
I also want to note to you, Anders, is that fundamentally on some level, like you have an intuition that this is not how it's supposed to be. There is a way, there is an ultimate safety, and there is an ultimate trust. And that, but for whatever reason, no one lives up to it. I mean, in a real sense, you're like you're looking for gold and you have to find real gold. Brother, there's real gold. I'm telling you, there is. It's just mostly it's just fake. You know, there is trust that's unconditional. There is actual safety that's unconditional. It's just you'll never find it in appearance.
Thank you, all of you. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck.
Even if you take the feeling of untrustworthiness all the way, then you'll find it too. That's one of the maneuvers. Yeah, it's like
But that's Craig. That's the thing we talked about in the video. You take anything all the way, right?
yeah, all the way. Yeah, yeah. Because like if you look at presence itself is completely confident in itself, right? It's just itself, right? That's why one of the qualities of presence is confidence, right? Confidence with a capital C. That goes beyond
and
even
the reason
qualitating
why
confidence
we
and
stop,
humbleness.
that's the issue, Frank, right? We fundamentally, whatever it is, we just stop. We don't actually go all the way with things. Because if you go all the way with things, there's just luminosity.
Yeah, but then if you don't have the right view, that actually reinforces the untrustworthy part. It's like we talk about like non-affirmative negation as negating something without affirmance opposite, right? But then if you don't have the right view, if you look around and you keep trying to find trust in certain things, that only reinforces the untrustworthiness, but it's just being suppressed temporarily. You might feel a temporary relief. Oh, I'm trusting this person, this group, that group. Right? But then if you don't open yourself all the way to include both sides of the duality, trustworthy, untrustworthy, and really go beyond, but include both. Go beyond, but include the indeterminacy and the determinacy, confusion and uncertainty.
That's the beauty about you, Frank.
You're always going to be oscillating back and forth, even if you think you found a solution. And that goes with all your spiritual practices.
Well, thank you, Anders. Let's move to Jeremiah and next Darko afterwards.
My sit today, I did it outside over by the pond. In the beginning, it was very like hard for me to like keep going with it. Like I was like getting annoyed with the ants. I eventually just stood up, moved to a different spot, and you talking about the intimacy, like that stuff, like really helped me kind of like start feeling more in tune with the energy.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty alarming and interesting to note, right? Seems like, brother, you maybe you're a lover, man. You need that. That's your gateway towards direct contact.
Yeah, I think that there's maybe a subtle inconsistency on how the meditation state should be. Therefore, actually, when you talk about ants, I can actually feel it. It's like, fuck, I'm in direct contact with the ants. Right, but this inconsistency, okay, I'm not supposed to be bothered by the ants, then that just continuously creates more resistance. But if you just go to the ants, be like, hey man, I'm actually in direct contact with the ants right now, I'm doing the practice right, and then that will soften up the resistance.
You know, it's funny when the ants were actually attacking me, I was actually thinking about you because I seen a video of yours before, like when you were doing like a Vipassana retreat outside. I want to say you were talking about how like you were just out there for hours and like mosquitoes and everything would just be attacking you, and you would just be still and silent throughout all of it.
I think I remember that, yeah. But I think during that time I didn't really understand view, so I think I was like trying to like, oh man, such a good meditator. All this ants crawling on me, I'm still gonna instantiate equanimity, which that was a good routing foot back then. But like, if I continuously not see that view, then it's just gonna be, yeah, there can be.
Wait, so what was the view change again?
The view change is, well, back then I didn't understand how continuously going back to retreat mode, vipassana, most of the practices, you're actually insisting reality to be a certain way, insisting a spiritual practice to be a certain way. For Gonkai, it's equanimity, right? So even though at that time there was like, a test of my resilience to like sit with the ants, whatever, and see in the inside, there was a view in there I wasn't seeing probably, where like I had to like insist on equanimity even when the ants are crawling. What I'm saying is that even if you have ants crawling and then you're like, oh man, like this is not good for my meditation, you're right there, you shift your view, that's contact right there. You don't have to actually try to like go back to a certain state. Yeah, that's what I'm basically what I'm saying. That can look different in every every situation. Yeah. But the difference is you have to be recognize that's what you're doing, because otherwise then you don't. There's no practice you can or whatever, right? Just the ants, whatever. You're just like bumping around, being all crazy and stuff.
So if not, we're just controlling a state, right? It's more than insistent.
Conditions.
Yeah. Like we want the sit to feel like nice and peaceful.
But funny, because on the other side of that extreme, it's like, oh, I'm just not gonna control any state. Yeah, it's okay if I'm lost in thought, if I'm engaged in all those behaviors, I hurt other people. It's all free flow anyway. You see how the view thing? It's like we're constantly jumping back and forth, but the middle way is what includes both, right? Effortlessness, but going beyond at the same time. And there's flexibility to shift back and forth depending on the context, the situation, the view. Yeah.
So, what are you saying? Like for the ants, like you just kind of like become aware of them, or like become like intimate with the ants, or how do
Yeah.
you treat them? Become in it?
I mean, if you want to slap the ants,
Like
go
show
ahead.
love to them.
Like, you just recognize that's what you're
Well,
doing. Yeah.
not just love, but like the fact that you're angry and
Yeah.
it fucking pisses you off and you fucking hate the ants.
Yeah, you need to be with
Like
that.
you actually feel that.
And own that.
Okay.
Yeah, all of it. And like you own all of it. You're like, yeah, and then I'm gonna fucking move because I don't want to kill the ants. So I'm gonna move. And then you move and then you sit there and you're like, okay, this is better. I'm kind of fucking numb. I don't like being angry, so I'm gonna numb out. And then okay, now I hear people. It's like, oh, people. This actually opens me up. So like all that you have to be aware of and own, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then
ownership.
watch where you
The contact ownership also like kind of the one and the same, right? Yeah. Because then if you own it, you're not ignoring. I've been saying how like suffering is ignorance, right? Or ignorance needs to suffer. Ignorance is ignoring certain parts of reality, because we insist on other parts of reality. It has to be that way. We even went to our first Vipassana retreat in 2015. It was insane, but I had yet to experience the 4D donut. And sometimes I say like perception is panoramic. It's the totality of its six sense spheres perceiving itself. Spatially, yes, but it's also panoramic temporally, where the present contains the future and the past contains the future and the present. Space and time is a single fabric, making mind and reality a hypertorus eating itself. Everything's interpenetrating, yet nothing is touching, because all phenomena are coreless and empty of inherent existence.
Eric, hey.
I feel like I had a fairly normal sit, maybe slightly more focused than usual. My exit is often thinking future thoughts and plans, and I feel like I pick up on that. Like I've been picking up on that more in the past year, and but something that was different about this sit, there was just like 5 minutes where I was just like felt really nauseous and my heart was beating quickly, but I just watched it and yeah.
Watched it in terms of like distancing.
No, like I just was with it and observed it, was present with it. Yeah.
What's the difference between being with it and being it?
I guess like if I was like more walking around day-to-day life, I would try to like calm it down, or like I guess I'm not sure I know the difference between watching it and being it. Um, I don't feel like I like succumbed to it or was overpowered by it, but yeah, I felt in a receptive state to anything today. So do you have an answer what the difference between watching it and being it might be?
Yeah, I have my answer, but this whole bootcamp is about yourself. So about your very answer. For me, it's like, yes, it's this the feeling arising in me. Am I becoming it? But everyone has to find out for himself. So if I ask a question, I don't usually know the answer, right? I'm just curious of what you say. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a trick question. Yeah, but might be like an interesting invitation to investigate. What does it mean to really be like a feeling, a thought, yourself?
Right? To be really intimate and to let yourself just like, I'm gonna fucking get a gasoline and just torch these motherfuckers. Because it's like the willingness to not feel that is gonna literally cause you to just kill the ants. You have to
So it's
feel
like
it through
about
it.
staying with it, like while I'm like going through all the emotions and feelings with it.
Yeah, yeah. And then you just go, okay, maybe I should move. You know, you're not reacting. It's a choice then.
It's a choice.
You know, all of it's like that's the meditation. You just stay at the contact of what is actually going on and then watch how you exit. So it's like a lot of insight there to mine from, brother. Okay, that's good.
Want to hear from Darko before we wrap
Yeah,
it up?
Darko.
He's been
Okay, sure. This shit actually shook me a bit. It scared me because when he was talking about the attention and how it's conditioned, I kind of saw like, wait. So every moment that I feel like I'm moving my attention, I feel like I started doing it by itself. Like it was happening because of what happened before. And it was very, very liberating, but also very scary. Like I was like, wait. And I just saw that the way I've been maybe missing years of my life by trying to control or improve the moment. Like I could do a sit and I'm thinking about the next technique, or I read a book and I'm thinking about which book to read before reading this book. Or when I'm in the gym, I'm thinking about the next exercise or the next day. And
it's terrifying.
Both of them are equally scary. Like being in the moment and accepting the unconditioned part of like how things are happening on their own, or trying to control it and missing it anyway. It was freaky. Yeah.
Just to point this out, it's like we are trading our lives for these patterns. That's what's at stake here. And that sucks. You know what I mean? That sucks. You're fucking alive, motherfucker. You know what I mean? You're alive. It's fucking crazy. Now. Like this is insanity. It's like what are we? It's like the most magical thing ever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right? And then we're trying to like it's like what the
You're trying to block the magic somehow.
Yeah. It's too much.
Yeah. But I'm happy I saw it at least.
Oh, beautiful conversation, guys. Intimacy. How do you avoid relationship? How do you avoid intimacy?
Yeah, the rude awakening is realizing that your entire spiritual path has been you trying to avoid intimacy or trying to avoid whatever you need to look at in order to transcend or in order to, you know, realize what's already here. Go beyond but include.
10 years of practice
Things
just
of
to come
practice
back
just
to
to prepare to the same loop that
feeling.
got you here in the first place. Avoidance.
Oh my God, yeah. It's like, oh, I gotta go back to the feelings I've been avoiding. Fuck.
Let's go to another retreat. Give them a jhana. Not a thought, not a thought. It's just a thought. It's just a thought.
That's the irony, is that that's one thing that'll help you guys, is to remember the fact that things end and that things die. And that kind of reality, it's actually reality. We got a minute. Okay. It's actually reality, and that kind of shocks us into this immediacy. Right? Like really contemplating this is very important. Impermanence, death. These are beautiful routings that the Buddha gave us. And it really allows us to be present and like really soak it in and, you know, really suck the tit out of life, you know, like just really enjoy it. Cause it's like, it's going away, man. Next moment, like we're going to be dead. You know what I mean? Guaranteed. And include not even next moment, but like not only are we going to be dead, but every moment it's gone. Like where's yesterday, man? Where's this week? The public practice week is going to be gone. It's just going to be a mere memory. Not even. My memory is complete shit, so it's not even going to be a memory. It's just literally not going to exist at all. But like here we are.
I guess we are also, some of us are also touching the duality between exit and entrance. If we're selective and conscious about it, then it become boundaries, like proper boundaries.
Yeah.
But we're unconscious about it. We just want to exit everything.
Yeah. It's the scene that even the exit entry is a relationship. It's not like exit is always like wrong, right? Because like in the certain phase of the path, renunciation is the correct maneuver. But then it's all contextual. It's like, do you recognize that's what you're doing? That's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Day 6 will also be
the exit thing is so interesting, like because it's like it's all about views. It's like when you have the right view, the exit it's like immediately becomes the entry. It's like you pop out of the other side, like simultaneously. It's contraction, expansion, same thing. It's like that loop. It's like, oh, you think you're exiting, but then you have instantiate the right view, boom, you actually enter into like total intimacy, just like that.